Hi viewers, welcome back. My name is Adeola Fayehun. And following President Muhammadu Buhari's order that the military command center be relocated to Maiduguri in Borno State, the Nigerian military has established a command center in the state. Now, to talk to us about that and how that would affect the ongoing fight against the insurgency Boko Haram in Nigeria, as well as to talk to us about the recent report by Amnesty International that states that there has been human rights violation by the Nigerian military that has resulted in the death of at least 8,000 young men in northeastern part of Nigeria, is none other than Mr. Cecil Ibegbu, who is a counterterrorism expert as well as the executive director of I2 Security Group LLC. Mr. Cecil Ibegbu, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, as commanded by the new Nigerian president, the Nigerian military has established a command and control center in Maiduguri. Do you mind just expatiating on that, on what that entails and the changes that we should expect with that?
Well, approached it both from a positive approach and also a negative implication of the positive side. Now the Nigerian military leadership will be a lot more committed to the fight against previously, over the years and when these things have been progressing, you have instances where the military leadership have been so moved from the actual fight. And then it's really been a situation where the unlikely military nails have been the ones that are to really be part of the fight. And the leadership itself have not really been in the critical position to do what they ought to do. On all instances, I've also mentioned the situations that we have where corruption was so endemic with the Nigerian leadership, where most of the things that are needed for the fight were either lacking or appropriated for, and then it's not actually procured, and to the extent of it, the training is not there, the equipment is not there as well. But having them there in the forefront, part of it makes it easier for them to see. It's either committed to it, are forced to make sure that the personnel and the equipment and all the materials that are needed are in place for this fight. On the negative side of it, logistically, the problem that Nigeria will have now will be, I'm not sure they are in the communication era that they ought to be based on their command and control. And the situation now will be where they will be easy targets for Boko Haram. And when you have the entire military headquarters located to Maiduguri, it poses another threat for Nigeria. I'm not sure whether they are, or they've thought it through, or whether they're in a position to actually prepared for the kind of fight and the kind of situational awareness that they have to fight to be able to fight this. So on an ideal situation, the headquarters being in Abuja, and they're coordinating and they're supplementing the personnel and supplementing the equipment as things come along. But having them domiciled right there becomes a problem as well.
I see. Thank you for talking about both the positive and also the likely problems. But you know, we're wondering, as a counterterrorism expert, would you say that this would sort of get us closer to the goal of defeating Boko Haram, or do you think this change could actually, like, it's not that different from what has been in practice?
No, it definitely is a very positive. You know, it shows leadership commitment. Buhari, to some extent, have shown some level of commitment upfront, willing to engage to fight this fight.
I see.
You have to remember, terrorism, to some extent, is a matter of perception.
So you think that this could be more effective? I guess that's the word I was looking for.
It will be more effective, but also it will come with a lot of casualties, both intended and unintended.
Why did you say that?
Well, they'll become targets as well. They'll spend a lot of resources protecting their headquarters. resources that will have been spent on the actual fight against Boko Haram will be directed at protecting the military headquarters. That's one of the unintended consequences.
I see. And when the president commanded that there should be a command center, does that mean that all the command officers moved to Maiduguri, or is it just that the commanding officer is the one that moved to Maiduguri?
Yeah, they can do it in both ways, but my interpretation of command center is that the leadership that are in command and leadership positions will relocate to Maiduguri. Right. And if that is the case, that means all of them will have to relocate to Maiduguri.
I see. So what should Nigerians expect to be different this time around with this new changing game?
Well, the trajectory of the message that's out there by Buhari is a very positive one. One, he's engaged to fight. He's doing what ought to be done for to be able to gain an upper hand in the fight. He's also, like I mentioned before, terrorism is a matter of perception most of the time. And when you are fighting, because on the counter side of it, you look at how good law handled terrorism. It makes it difficult for the masses to actually come forward and become part of it. And Nigeria needs to carry all its citizens along by it. When you have a leader that's so committed and shows will, as Buhari have done, it's easier for the citizens to rally around him, both in providing and also helping him to fight that fight, because the military cannot win it alone.
I see. Let's talk about the other aspect of this interview, which is the report by Amnesty International. Earlier this month, Amnesty International released a report titled "Stars on Their Shoulders, Blood on Their Hands, War Crimes Committed by the Nigerian Military." And this report stated that since March of 2011, more than 7,000 young men and boys were killed by Nigerian military in detention, and that more than 1,200 of them were unlawfully killed since February of 2012. Also, Amnesty International released a video to go with the report. And before I come to you, Mr. Ibegbu, we just want to play like an excerpt from the video, just like 30 seconds. And right after that, we'll be right back.
Sure.
Are rounded up and made to undress. In many cases, an anonymous informant, a pointer, here hidden in a car, then singled out who among them he claimed was a member of Boko Haram. In most instances, no evidence was ever produced against those accused, who were then taken away, detained, or murdered.
Yeah, that was very graphic, but that's the video released by Amnesty International. So, Mr. Ibegbu, I'm wondering, first of all, if you've seen this video or if you've read this, this report by Amnesty International and your view about it.
Yes, I've read it, and I can tell you this. Nigerian military is in a very difficult war that they have to conduct. Difficulty in the fact that there is no ascertainable intelligence that helps you differentiate who the head of who is not a member of Boko Haram. Now, if Amnesty International can come up with a definite way of this identification prior to the commission of terrorism, they're more than likely to bring it forward. But when you are on the battlefield, as military have been, there's not that much time to make those decisions, whether you're doing the right thing or whether you're doing the wrong thing. I'll give you a couple of examples. If you look at how the military conducted itself in Baghdad, it was a matter of survival for most of the military officials. You look at Afghanistan, there's always going to be that kind of a casual war. Boko Haram itself are using children, women, to commit these atrocities. Nigerian military, on its part, cannot be in position to be able to have all the time that it needs to really vet and conduct the ground rules intelligence to figure out whether this person is an actual terrorist or not. So it's all a matter of a split-second decision making. So I see where Amnesty International is coming from. Is true that maybe Nigerian military is overstepping its bounds on human rights violations and all of that, but at the same time, they have to be a little softer its approach on the way that Nigeria military is conducting itself.
I see. Some people that are listening to this interview, they may have issues with you saying that there was no time for the soldiers to make the decision. It's a matter of survival, so they can really decide whether this is wrong or right. How would you answer people that are saying that no time? Should that be an excuse to kill the innocent?
It is not an excuse. That's what I'm saying. My position is that you typically don't have that much of a time when you have a suicide bomber with bombs strapped around their waist to explode it at any moment. There's not that much time for them to react. And secondly, my other position is this, that one of the things that I had to do over the years when this thing started, and it started from the NSA, the coordinator of counterterrorism at the NSA, was really to build a functional gathering.
Hello? All right, I think we lost him. We're going to try to get him back so he can explain to us more. Okay, I think we have him back. Mr. Ibegbu, welcome back.
Thank you.
I see. You were trying to explain using the word, saying that there's no time, they had to make quick decision, and I'm glad that you brought up the issue of suicide bombers. But from some of the instances given in the video, especially the parts that we played, we had soldiers going to villages and rounding up hundreds of young men, and they had someone hidden in the car, supposedly pointing out who's a member of Boko Haram or not, without any evidence. And we saw in that video that those people were being either beaten or killed. That doesn't look like the instances of a survival moment, or suicide bomber is there and they were trying to make quick decision. And also in the video, one of the commandants, whose name I don't have with me right now, basically told his men that when you go to these villages, destroy anything that may suggest that this person is a member of Boko Haram. So this looked like a well-planned, I'm just saying, according to this report and video, this looked like well-planned execution. So how do you defend that? Because I understand you're saying that the soldiers were trying to survive, but in instances like this was not like a suicide bomber. This looked like a well-planned execution.
It's two ways of it. There's the abuse. Of course, I acknowledge that. And also, there are instances of also legitimate military casualties that, unfortunately, is part of the war against terror. Most of the time, because individuals doesn't have a bomb as at the time they were apprehended or really engaged by the military, does not necessarily mean that they are not of Boko Haram. The intelligence, and I was mentioning in the past, the downside of what the military did and the NSA's office did is that they failed to really put in place a proper apparatus that would have been a guide on how to engage, that will allow that a certain level of intelligence that they can rely on. They don't have that. So because of lack of that, they resort into on the field decision, which leaves them open to this kind of criticisms. Because if they can document the trajectory and exactly what led them to the decision making, it would have been easier for people to see that. But because they've not been able to document that and really have some form of policies or procedures that led to the decision making, then it makes it difficult for this kind of, it makes it possible for this kind of criticisms to be in place.
I see. What do you have to say, though, about the detentions? Because according to this report, most of the people that were killed in military detention. So that means they didn't have any weapons or any possible bombs at that time. They were already being detained, yet many of them were starved, and many of them were killed in detention. How do you, what do you have to say to that?
Again, just like most of the unfortunate happenings is because there's no laid down policies and rules of engagement for the military. You look at Gitmo for the US, there are a lot of in order to gather intelligence, there are a lot of things that were done that were really contrary to human rights. And of course, some of those things were excused because at the end of the day, it helped the military and it helped the U.S. government to gather the kind of intelligence that are needed. I'm not suggesting that government should go to that extent.
So the Nigerian government responded. First of all, they ignored it, and when they responded, they said they would investigate the claims. So I'm just wondering, from your opinion, if any of this were to be true, what do you think would be the next step?
The next step will be this: Nigerian government really taking a very bold stand that they are against human rights violations, because some of these people will be innocent people that are becoming casual for the fight against terror. They need to take a very bold stand. They need to also investigate it to its fullest course. And the next thing that they need to do is to really set policies and procedures of conduct for the military in terms of whether the individual suspects are in custody or be prior to apprehension. And also, they also need to really legitimately lay out the claim when you can engage and when you can eliminate into military apparatus. You know, is it imminent danger or is it perceived danger? Which one is it? And they have to lay it out.
I see. Thank you so much, Mr. Ibegbu, once again for joining us and, enlightening us about some of these issues. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, viewers, that has been Mr. Cecil Ibegbu, a counterterrorism expert and executive director of I2 Security Group, LLC. We have much more to come. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.